And Capital Projects Manager Aaron Nix will be taking his place tonight to present the frontage improvement charge and transportation impact fee code updates.
Council, okay with that? All right. Perfect. Council, any board reports to share?
I wanted to shout out the Shelton Police Department. We had an unfortunate situation this week and they were on it and they did a great job. And the public works crew, they've been out there cleaning up all up and down the railroad this week. It looks great. They're trimming up trees. They're sweeping. They got the street crew fixing all the little things out there that need to be fixed. It looks really good downtown. Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, board reports, comments?
Thank you. All right. Has everyone reviewed the item on the consent agenda? Mayor motion.
To approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second to approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're at our presentations and Liz, Mason County Historical Museum has a presentation for us.
So thank you for agreeing to see me on at short notice. As you're probably aware, the anything has been city hall. Is the perfect location. Historic building, history downtown, you know, it's great for tourists. We've always felt that our organization is really crucial and a crucial anchor for the downtown area, even as economic conditions have fluctuated. We do have one critical difficulty with the building, and that is our collection storage. So we have an amazing collection. I've said this many times of archives. We've got 140 years of newspapers, photographs, negatives, tens of thousands of items. And the majority of that is stored in what was originally built as a garage for a fire. We also have things in 2 storage units. We have a shipping container up at MCRA, and we have things in the attic over the bathrooms in the museum. And we have things in the attic of St. David's Church. So this stuff is not climate controlled. We have problems with mold, vermin, heat fluctuations, which are really bad with the collection. So all of these things put our collection at risk. So we've been trying to figure out, do we get another building? Status on that. We love our location. But when the boats built out next door to us into the alley, all of a sudden I went, that's a thought. So we have been looking at, with Glenn Williams, who's been guiding them through this, we've been looking at expanding the collection storage. So one way to finance this would be through the Heritage Grant Program at through the Washington State Historical Society. Good. So these heritage grants operate on the 2-year cycle. Applications that are accepted for this spring won't be voted on by the legislature until next year. And then we have 2 years following that acceptance to complete the project. Extensions are available, but that's another situation. The state requires the grantees to have a lease in place if they don't own the building, because they have to keep, they need to have control of the property for 10 years following the completion of the project. So we're looking like 13 years out. So that would be through 2037. The thing is, the grant fund's only 1/3 of the project, so we would need to come up with 2/3, and we don't have a lot of time. Fingers crossed we put this together, but there's no guarantees. So we're, I'm just working forward until I can't move forward anymore. Um, So this kind of shows what the addition for collection storage, where it would be. The drawings that you see would build around that concrete block area that's to the far right in the picture with the kind of the band thing. And then this other part is part of the garage. And we've talked to the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, and they don't believe that that's a historically significant portion of the building. And we would not be touching the historic part of the building at all. So we would be taking that off and then it would be coming out 10 feet. So they're on the left, you can see the existing, the right shows what would be the proposed addition. We would be adding, I believe, 1,200 square feet, which would do wonders for us. And, the idea would be that it would be under control. Things could be kept clean, you know where things are. It's not face down. So I guess what I would hope from you guys at least think about would be at least extension. And then I would also ask for authorization to proceed with the grant. But like I said, this is a little bit more rushed than we would have hoped, but it's that way they work. So I would be happy to entertain any questions. I think the last slide. Oh, no, here you can see, sorry. Here you can see the main floor and the upper floor. So we would also be reconfiguring our restrooms so that we would have an accessible restroom. Right now, they're closed, but they're not quite there. So that is also part of the project. So, now let's.
All right, comments or questions? What is our lease on that?
The lease expires in 2026. Do you remember what month, Liz? December 26th, the end of the year.
I can't think of a better tenant for a building like that than the Historical Society. I mean, so I don't see that. Right, on this wall, I see already the forehead shaking that. I don't think it'll be a lease problem there. So,
In the interim, Liz, do I understand it correctly? You would need a letter expressing the city's interest in extending the lease or renewing a lease for the 10-year period required, for 13 years, I guess. Okay.
Yes, and then they would hope, I spoke to someone from the Historical Society, the Washington State Historical Society today, and she would hope that we would have provided, so the grant is in 2 steps. So the first step is coming up, which is why I'm here tonight, and then the second part of it is due in first week of June. So she would hope that we would have them released by the first week of June. That's second part.
So do you need a release or do you just need a letter?
So we would need a letter for part 1, which would end next week. And then a lease extension by June.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a 1/3, is there a matching by the city or are we gonna fund it privately?
We are not asking for a match, although there's someone who had a pile of cash somewhere. More than half. Discuss it. No, this would be independent. Which is why it's tentative.
when you do the project and you're getting the grant, do you have to like match the money, or can you have in-kind contributions like timber and labor and stuff like that? Or is it gonna be where you have to go out and to contract labor and hire, the most expensive guy out there?
We can, so the grant is 1/3. The other 2/3 are split. Half is dollars and the other half can be in kind,
Okay.
or any proportion. You can have more cash, that like But, you can't have any more than 1/3 behind,
Okay,
either
My,
materials.
my, my assumption, since it's funds coming from the state, they'd require, state bid process to be followed.
Not for volunteers,
No,
yeah,
but bidding the project, yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
yes.
And how soon do you need this letter again?
Right.
Friday.
Is there a barrier to providing a letter like this, Mark?
With the council's, I guess, approval, no, we can certainly provide a letter that says we intend to negotiate an extended lease agreement beyond December 2026, certainly.
Do we need a motion?
At this point, no, sorry,
Just
Okay,
concurrence from
yeah.
us?
that's
got
fine.
that.
Yep, no, at this point, the letter's fine. When the lease will come back to council, certainly,
Okay.
right, for approval. So in the meantime, since there's a deadline of June 7th,
Yes.
correct, for the second phase, then the lease would have to be executed by that point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll look forward to bringing a lease, a new lease back to council prior to June 7th.
And as far as, I just sometimes, continuing with this process, the grant process is. approved by- Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, the city doesn't have any issues with the man on. an alley?
Absolutely not. It's a great asset.
For the administrative of our community and for
thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, our next item is presentation from Finance Director Mike Gibbons. Oh.
That's right.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. This is the first report for the finances for fiscal year 2024. I'll just share with you, when we start out, December's the easy month because the estimates are true to what was actually spent. January is a little bit more difficult because we just have 1 month of data. And we're not always sure, what the timing is on certain projects, especially in the capital funds. Even in the general fund, it's a little bit difficult. On the general fund side of the revenue, and so I'm just gonna start out kind of on page 1 of the report, and move through a little bit of it and give you just a little bit of a glimpse into this, because I think I certainly feel good about this year's budget to start out with compared to where we were last year. Certainly things can always change, but as far as revenue goes for the month of January, it was very typical. Sales tax came in right about exactly where it had the January of 2023. I think it was like $1,000 higher. So, that's good. I mean, of course, we'd love it if it was higher, but having it be kind of spot on is really what we want to see. Our estimates, you'll notice on the revenue side, and I'm looking on page 2 of the report. We're estimating in some cases that at the end of 2024, that there might be a bit of a shortfall in some of the revenues. That's just anecdotally where we're projecting things to be right now. I have every confidence those will come in even a little bit closer to where we're projecting, but we tend to be a little bit conservative on this. And with 1 month in, it's really hard to say. I mentioned sales tax just as an example, because I'm sitting here with you in middle of March, so I know what happened in February. Sales tax came in $20,000 higher than it did the February before. So you just never know where things are going to be. So I think where we had shown that sales tax might be down, I don't know that that'll be the case. But again, we're 1 or 2 months into the fiscal year, so lots of things can change. Things are busy. With the business and occupation tax, we're reaching out. We're doing quite a bit of work with our payers because sometimes new rate was missed, and so we're checking the forms as they come in, communicating with businesses and trying to help. We sent out a lot of information going into this, but you know, people don't always pay attention to that. They were using old forms, so we're doing a lot of work with that. But that's on the revenue side of things. So again, I would expect that each month we're gonna update this a bit and change a little bit where we see maybe our estimate being for year end. In the general fund on the expense side, it's also difficult to always predict exactly where we're going to come out with 1 month of data. I wanted to point out a couple of things. If you look at the detentions corrections contract through January, there was just a small charge that happened to be for prisoner medical expenses. The way that the timing of the invoices came, we have since paid 2 months for incarceration of prisoners, and so that total expended is at 32,000. So we're on target. That's my message to you. But because of where January sits, if you just look at that, you might say, "Oh, what's going on with that?" That's what's going on. It's just sometimes the timing of when we get the invoices in. Again, I expect it to be at or below budget. For the purposes of this, we're just estimating it flat. A couple of the departments, you'll notice risk management, we're projecting to be a little bit over, and that's partly due to our liability insurance payment that we had. So that, as I think we shared, that came in, it's doubled in 2 years. And so that hit that particular department a little bit harder than we had budgeted. Another area that is trending high is animal control. If you just look at 1 month, and again, I'm sitting here in the middle of March, so I know, have a little bit more data in my head, that's going to trend well over budget. So if you just look at the 1 month, if you take 20,000 times 12, you can do the math, it's gonna be over budget. It's probably gonna be even more than that, just looking at where we're headed for February and March. So that one will overexpend. Otherwise, things are looking in line. The fire and EMS contract for services budget line is much more accurately budgeted this year. If you remember last year, we'd under budgeted for that, so that's looking good. On page 7, where we estimate the fund balances and where we're going to end the year, everything's looking good. You know, we're estimating more projects are gonna happen. We built a budget across all of the funds, not just the general fund, to be doing more capital projects. So we're gonna draw down some funds. We knew that would be the case. So where we started with the beginning fund balance, it's gonna end lower because we're getting some work done. I do want to point out that we're showing at the end of January, and I'm looking at the bottom of the page where we track city wide FTE by fund. As of January 31st, there were 7.5 positions vacant in the general fund and 4 in other city funds, for a city-wide vacancy rate of 11.5. You know, that can lead to some underspending in some areas. It certainly, as the city manager and I were just talking about, it adds workload, it slows us down in getting projects done. So, you know, some of that has changed as of February. We filled the IT position, but that's something that I think all of us at department director positions are watching, because it's difficult to fill positions, and, you know, we've had some more changes, and so we'll keep that updated. The rest of the report, though, I think everything's looking good for this point in the year. Finance staff is hard at work, particularly Deputy Finance Director Schnitzer, working on our annual report. She has the SMPD annual report ready for my review. So that's a big part of what we're doing now. Those the annual financial reports due in late May to the state auditor's office. So we're working to get that done. And then, as we're already almost a quarter of the way through the year, so we'll start billing on some of our grants that we have going on for some capital work around the city and other things going on. So that's where the finances are 1 month into the year, and we'll be bringing the report back monthly to keep you updated on where things are. Thank you.
Comments or questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, our first business item is resolution to accept grant funds for the library debt. Parks and Recreation Supervisor Jordan has details for us.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Tonight I bring to you, a resolution for accepting library debt grants with, the Washington State Department of Commerce Library Capital Improvement Program, specifically for the library debt. We applied for this grant back in April of 2022, and we are just now working on getting that rolling. So we requested $70,000 the improvement, and we were approved $67,900. This project is the removal of existing membrane of the surfacing of the deck that covers the wood frame and the wood safety railings. So anything that's rotten from water extrusion, that would also be removed and replaced. The new waterproof pieces that would go in would help with longevity and aesthetics. So by doing that, it would just longer lifespan. The building is over 30 years old, so this is a need. And right now it's not being used by the public, so once this is rolling and finished, it would be open for public use, which I think would also bring in more people to come to the library. And then it's also appealing looking from the outside when you're driving down the 7th and photo. As a budget, we budgeted $140,000 for the project. The city, between us and the library endowment fund, was between $23,000, $24,000, and then Timberland Regional Library is putting in $23,000, and then we'll get the grant of $67,900. And then we're just looking for further consideration, and then happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jordan. Don, is there any kind of a public comment?
No, they have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to place resolution number 1322-0324 on the April 2nd, 2024 action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? It'd be nice to get that deck opened again. It's been how many years?
A lot.
Thank you.
I don't know the exact number.
3 years. Yeah, nice to get the deck opened again. All right,
And just for further information, so in 2019, I believe, when we painted the exterior of the library and replaced the roof with a new metal roof, these deck repairs were included in that project. We did not receive enough funds from the capital appropriation to complete this portion of the project. So those were delayed to this point in time. The Department of Commerce had the library capital improvement grant program available in 2022, and so went forward to complete this project and basically buttons up the exterior of that building.
right. We have a motion and a second to place resolution number 1322-0324 on April 2nd, 2024 action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, we're recessing from a regular meeting to open a public hearing. We have an ordinance related to frontage improvements, charges and transportation impact fees, Aaron Nix will be presenting.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Aaron Nix. Capital Projects Manager. You get the C team today. Sorry. I'll do my very best. I've kind of been in and out of this issue, but not always an easy issue to discuss. Every city has to go through this. So I think the opportunity tonight is for the public to provide their comments and suggestions, which is great. So I'm going to be fairly brief. Council remembers there were some actions taken last year as it pertains to frontage improvement charges as well as transportation impact fees. What this is before you is an ordinance to revise some of those sections, specifically section 12.36 and section 17.12. Pertaining to those issues. Last fall, the council adopted an updated version of the manual that defines what an infill lot is. and the required improvement standards. The master fee schedule was also updated last fall to include in lieu fee payments when applicable for curb, sidewalk, paving, or infill lot developments. That's identified, and you'll see the changes, modifications associated with that. A little bit of history for the newer council members. Frontage improvements were implemented, I believe, in 2015. I believe it was $50 per linear foot at that point. As far as when I talk about frontage improvements, I'm talking about when a development happens, there's something done out front in order to ensure safety, circulation, all those types of things. So it was repealed in 2017, and then last year we initiated again to charge frontage fees. So at least that section of the code, if you look at it, it's very brief as far as modifications. That's what we're discussing in that piece. I'd like to move on, if I could, to the transportation impact fees. If the council and for the new council members, those are one-time charges for new developments for capacity improvements to the transportation system for the impact of new users and are not ongoing rates. That's, we need to understand that. It's a one-time pop. The idea being if you have a site that's not developed and there's improvements, there's road, those types of things, you're gonna create an impact to your transportation system by that new development. This is an opportunity, a way to kind of offset those impacts and make it more equitable, I guess is the best word to use for that. Modification to the current traffic impact fee is identified within here as well. Both city staff and the attorney reviewed all those. Again, a lot of this was cleanup work, a lot of it, especially specifically with our TIF code, there was a lot of stuff that was outdated, and we needed to update it because the law on that, because it's so can be controversial, changes sometimes. So that's kind of what I would like to present to you guys tonight. I'm willing and happy to answer any questions that you may have specifically. Otherwise, I want to let the public please have their opportunities.
Thank you, Aaron. Donna, does anyone have a public comment?
I'll speak.
Can you sign up? Yeah.
You do it like I'm an AC County member. So the impact fees, I guess what I would ask, and I don't, if you can't answer it or not, maybe somebody can get back to me, but I do. How much are we talking about? What's the dollar figure? I mean, if we're trying to invigorate downtown and trying to get more people to build and use these infill lots because we need homes, right? So everybody says whenever we come to these meetings. So I guess my question is, why are we gonna negatively impact somebody else? And if it's a minor impact, I'd like to know what that is. But if it gets into some financial dollars, I'd like to know what those are. So if somebody could let me know, that'd be great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Donna?
No, Mr. Mayor,
All right.
number 2020-0224. An ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, amending chapter 12.36 and repealing and replace chapter 17.12 of the Shelton Municipal Code related to transportation related development charges.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to place ordinance number 2020-0224 onto the council's action agenda for further consideration at the April 2nd, 2024 meeting.
Thank you. Comments or questions?
Excuse me.
Oh, we
Mr.
need a
Mayor,
second.
it was-
I didn't hear. Okay. Comments or questions? This also gives like credits if they do the infrastructure themselves. to develop.
In lieu of, or credits if the improvements are created by the developer, yes, you can receive credits to those impact fees. I think we talked about that before, when we were developing those frontage improvement standards. If it's within their wherewithal to put in a sidewalk, curb, gutter, pave the streets, if those are so required. And it can often be done cheaper by the developer, by the contractor than it can the city down the road, and you get it, they get those improvements up ahead of time too. to be clear, the frontage improvements aren't required in all locations. We talked about where they would be required. The in lieu of fees may be required to offset our critical pedestrian routes. That's how we get people from neighborhoods to critical infrastructure throughout the city, like the library, parks, hospital, grocery store, shopping, areas like that. So this wouldn't include full frontage improvements in all areas of the community. The traffic impact fee for a single family resident as adopted in 2024 master fee schedule is $4,701.11
For ERU.
for a single family residence. So per trip. So the calculation is much different based on a commercial structure or a multifamily structure. They're based on trip counts. So those trip counts, there's what's it called again, Mr. Nix?
What's that again?
The calculator, the spreadsheet that measure trip counts and
The black box?
for use. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there's a guide essentially that is used for that determines trip counts per use. So this might be for a gas station, a retail establishment, a multifamily structure. Those trip counts then generate the traffic impact fee. Schools, places like that can be significant traffic impact fees. And if you see what's happening up on Spring Road and Wallace Nealon Boulevard at peak counts, that those traffic impact fees offset the cost of providing those improvements, those offsite improvements to those intersections that help facilitate the movement of traffic through those intersections and other transportation improvements in the city.
And this is kind of mostly housekeeping. We've already approved all of this, correct?
Well, the fee schedule was adopted in 2024. The design and construction standards were adopted, yes, previously. So this aligns our design and construction standards with our city code.
All right, any other comments? All right, we have a motion and a second to place ordinance number 2020-0224 on the council action agenda for further consideration at the April 2nd meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing is closed. All right, capital project manager Aaron Nix has information for us about a contract for ADA transition.
Thank you again, sir. I appreciate it. Here. So, if you recall, council, earlier in the year, we worked on, the development of a plan, a study that looked at pavement and its condition, and identified that as required by the state, for on all of our roadway systems. It helps you get grants. There's a lot of reasons why they make you do that. This is number two whammy that the state is working with us on, and I think it's important. This is really an important piece, in my opinion. It pertains to the ADA, American with Disabilities Act. What I'm proposing or bringing forward for discussion, last year, if you recall, the council budgeted $60,000 to do what we call an ADA transition plan. And what that is basically an evaluation of all our sidewalk network throughout the entire city, identifying areas in which ramps, other types of access for ADA does not meet current standards. Within that plan, then you devise a plan in order to get rid of those ADA non-compliant ramps and those types of things. You also have to include how you're going to budget for that kind of stuff. So what this does is it really helps prioritize highest impacted areas or areas worst bad. I'm just going to give you an example. Currently, we just did a walkthrough of Olympic Highway. In that section, we just got TIB grant. I counted about 25 ramps that do not meet current ADA standards. So this is a really important thing for us, because what it does is it provides us some guidance and direction. It also allows us to be more competitive and get monies to do those fixes. So we are trying to integrate everything that we can. We do capital projects, fixing a lot of these things, but the reality, and every city is going through this. The reality is that the standards change, not often, but 5-10 years, slope, all that kind of stuff. So that's what this plan does, and I'm asking the council to consider that. Again, this has been budgeted. It's a little bit more than the 60,000 you budgeted. It's about 60 and $500, $900, something to that effect, some change. But the intent is to hire a contractor, a consultant. We have most of our facilities already mapped, it's just a matter of putting that plan together, bringing them back, doing some community input, and moving forward with that. So that's kind of the background of what I'm bringing forward to you guys to consider us moving forward.
Thank you, Aaron. Donna, anyone have a public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Right, and do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to place resolution number 1321-0224 on the April 2nd, 2024 action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? Right, hearing none. We have a motion and a second to place resolution number 1321-0224 on the April 2nd, 2024 action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Aaron is back. That's another item for us, an amendment.
Thank you guys. I apologize for that. We've talked about this in the past too, you guys. RH2 was the design engineering firm that helped us with our safe routes to schools. Good news, just to let you guys know, we're having a pre-con tomorrow for that project. So that will be proceeding. If you recall, those are the intersections or the crossings by Evergreen Elementary and up by the high school, rapid flashing beacons, speed signs, that's proceeding forward. I also told you guys that we want to utilize some internal staff to kind of offset some of these costs that we have to utilize some consultants to do construction management, construction inspection work. Totally agree. I have background in that. I know Jay does, and Amy, our senior inspector, is really good. We do, though, in order to meet the requirements of the grants that we received, have to have a PE certified to be able to look at and do reviews of submittals, those types of things. So basically just it's not necessarily a rubber stamping exercise. They will go through and make sure that all the components are correct. And then at the end, you have to legally have a PE stamp your as-built to say it was constructed this way. With that, we stripped down a lot of the other costs. If you recall, one of the other projects we had recently, about $150,000 for construction management. We've got this down to about 24,000. Again, it was just for those bare bones things that a PE, a licensed engineer, has to write off on for local programs. So that's what I'm bringing forward to you guys for discussion. Significantly less money, all going to be covered by the grant, and it adds some little protection in that it's a consultant, not necessarily staff, because we don't have PEs on staff to be able to do that right. So, if there's questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Aaron. Donna, anyone set up a public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to place resolution number 1323-0324 on the April 2nd, 2024 action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
All right, comments or questions?
I just like to say that the city has become a lot more walkable in the past few years, and we need to continue that trend, get people out of their cars, get them walking, get them spending money locally.
Sure.
Having safeness on the streets, having people stop for you when you're at a crosswalk, because they can see you now.
Yeah.
And that's part of the small town feels when people come up and actually stop for you and let you cross. I think all this we should keep on doing it and making people safe to feel they can get out of their cars and walk around town. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for staff putting those costs down for us. We have a motion, a second, pledge resolution number 1323-0324 on April 2nd, 2024 action consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Aaron, it's an Aaron show tonight.
It's-
Aaron, one more.
Again, I'm sorry, but good news, you guys, this is the fun part for me. What we have before you is it took a lot of work, a lot more than I thought, because we got a new grant manager for this particular piece. But we were at the point, you've already accepted these grant monies. I think it was for 1.6.
1.8.
Yeah, 1.8, I'm sorry. This is relevant to the Angleside pressure zone improvements that we need to do. if you remember right, we have an upper and a lower pressure zone, pressure booster pump station. The upper one does not. It functions, but it could be a lot more efficient and effective. So what this project is going to do, again, with grant monies, we're basically going to make sure that everything's talking to each other with regard to the reservoirs, the wells, all those things. So there's going to be what they call SCADA improvements. We're going to be putting in some new pumps in the lower section, as well as doing some piping improvements up on the side zone with the intent to kind of increase pressures, but also help us with our dead storage issues that we've talked to you guys about in the past. So all this is, and the attorney, I've had her look at it, is a grant agreement of thank you. Yes, we accept the monies, and this is the process we need to utilize in order to utilize the monies. So pretty typical stuff, but $1.8 million of other people's money for us. So if there's any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Aaron. Don, anyone have a public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to place resolution number 1323-0324 on the April 2nd, 2024 action agenda for further consideration.
Perfect. Point of order, it was actually resolution 1324.
1324 dash.
Second. All right. Comments or questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to place resolution number 1324-0324 on the April 2nd, 2024 action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Hey, our only action item is resolution to accept funds for improvements at Olympic Highway North. Aaron has details for it.
I brought this forward to you guys previously. This is the get-go. This is the grant agreement for us to receive our $4.2 million to upgrade and redo Olympic Highway from C Street all the way up to Waltz Nealon. I will tell the council that we want to utilize as much money as we can to help do some of the other pedestrian enhancements that you guys talked about. But the reality, and I'm always honest with you guys, a lot of this grant money is going to be sucked up in asphalt, and that's just the bottom line. The reality is that road is just deteriorating to the point where we're going to have to dig it out and do a lot of improvements. Ultimately, what we'd like to see is more of the bulb outs, more flashing beacons. Or we have a signal on that corridor that's just hanging on, basically, it doesn't have mast arms, it's hanging on cords. We'd like to get mast arms, those kinds of things, but it's gonna be limited. In any event, this is the grant agreement with TIP to allow us to proceed with that. And if there's any questions, again, my intent is to have a couple of open houses. We need to get the business community involved and engaged in this to understand what we're doing, because the reality, in my opinion, just like our gateway project, to me, that's a gateway too. And that's a gateway into our business. If there's any questions, please.
All right, Don, anyone have a public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
May we have a reading of resolution number 1320-0224?
Resolution number 1320-0224. A resolution of the city of Shelton, Washington, authorizing the city manager to sign a grant agreement with the state of Washington Transportation Improvement Board in order to reconstruct Olympic Highway North from C Street to Wallace Nealon Boulevard.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1320-0224 as presented.
All right, comments or questions?
Olympic Highway North is a little bit rougher to walk, so anything we can do to help that out. It's also not as safe as the other areas to walk, so it's sorely needed, and thank you for bringing this in.
I might also mention to you, one of the only reasons why we got this grant is that we need to put a bike lane in. So that was a requirement of this grant. So when you talk about walkability, the state's pushing it.
Right. We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1320-0224 presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Aaron, you're free. Mark, you have city manager report tonight.
No, boy, I don't have a lot for you tonight. I just want to recognize, as Councilmember Blush mentioned, our crews are out there, especially with daylight savings time, changing on us. We're getting more daylight, we're getting more use. The sun's out. Our parks are really busy all weekend. We're in the process of hiring temporary staff, our seasonal staff to assist us in those measures. So if the public will kind of bear with us for a few weeks before we get some of those seasonal staff on to I don't know, it'll probably start raining and then and then the use will go down and won't be as impactful, but to keep up with ball fields and restrooms and playgrounds and all those things. We'll appreciate the grass is growing fast as well at the same time. So it's really important that we have these seasonal employees come in and assist us to make sure that we can serve our community as best as possible. That's all I wanted to mention tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. At this time, members of the public are invited to make public comment on any topic that's not listed on the agenda. Donna, anyone interested in public comment tonight?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Our first speaker is Jackie Jewett.
Good evening, Jackie Jewett, Mason County. So here I have a list of events that have recently gone on downtown. And of course, you know, you can't be everywhere at once, right? So this is a handful of days, and this is just some of the things that either Dean or myself have witnessed. So I'm gonna read my list. So on the 6th of March, there was a group of people by the back of the VFW hall, or yeah, behind the back of the VFW. And they had garbage everywhere, and there was drug use that was visible to our eyes. So I'm sure that other people notice that's going on. Again, on the 6th of March, individuals were hanging out at Safeway on the corner. They were blocking the sidewalk and they were panhandling, and they were also back by the dumpster trying to get in to get some food probably. There were individuals in the alcove of the movie theater, as there always is. I've been approached by several different people when I've gone to the movie theater to buy my favorite popcorn. On the 8th of March, there were shopping carts by the railroad trestle, Pine Street, the park and ride in the creek at Front Street, the alley on the community lifeline property. They're just still all over. And I noticed that, you know, we're getting a lot of new residents, and I'm sure that they need those shopping carts to carry around their belongings to live here. On the 10th of March, Brewer Park, just full of garbage again. There were dogs off leashes, they were running around, people are standing there doing drugs for everybody to see. There was also, on that same day, there was, looked like to me like five, you know, chop, there were parts everywhere, they were painting, all the bikes were dismantled and, well, not rideable as far as I could see. And I didn't know that that was a repair shop. On the 14th of March, there was a man sleeping on the sidewalk by the town tavern. As I continue on, Post Office Park, there's just dogs running all over in the grass in there, and there's just garbage, and just garbage. Garbage does not look good for our city. Lady under an awning at the Bank of America again. There was a man under an awning with a full shopping cart full of dolls. And then when he was asked to move, he freaked out. The police ended up coming, he was screaming, and it was out of control. Thank you for listening to half my list.
Our next speaker is Dean Jewett.
Dean Jewett, lifelong Mason County member. Thank you, my lovely wife, for half the list. The gentleman that pushes the dolls and dresses in a dress, do whatever you need to do. Do not dump your cart out all over the sidewalk. Have 2 officers, a sheriff, a DCR, all involved with it. How much does that cost us? Joe, maybe you can take a look at that. You're a numbers guy. And then an hour later, they're still there. And then 3 hours later, that gentleman is at Neil's Pharmacy. I mean, I don't get it. That just doesn't make any sense to me. It impacted 6 different businesses in a negative manner. Do you want your grandma walking through that? Do you want your kids seeing that? I don't. But I want to talk about accountability, transparency, teamwork, leadership, timeliness. Timeliness. If we see a situation, what do we do with it? Do we put our head in the sand and let it grow, or do we attack it and make sure that it doesn't create a bigger negative problem later on that costs us what? More money to deal with. Anybody know about the Conklin property up above the old bowling alley and stuff? How long have you guys let that go on and on and on? Why hasn't code enforcement issued a citation to that and cleaned that property up? I don't understand. There's ordinances for that. Enforcement. I would like to have the council work with our police department in, instead of being as a reactive, to be proactive. Now, they're busy, they have a lot of stuff to deal with, and I appreciate everything that they do. Especially since we have a new police chief. I like the direction that it's going. Leadership. Those in power need to make tough decisions. You guys are in positions to make the tough decisions. You're gonna have to start making them. You can't just blase. If you keep doing what you've always done, you're gonna keep getting what you've always got. What we got don't work. And you guys have to understand that. You have to see it, you have to know it. Have you guys gone through the ordinances like I asked? Do you drive past Brewer Park a couple days a week so that you can see what we see? Teamwork. The city, I started going to the county commissioners meetings. I go to the city council, county commissioner, and school board meetings. So we need to have teamwork. It can't be just me. I mean, I see Eric at all those. I don't see anybody else. So let's get some work going together. We all know where there's scamps at. Let's go take care of them. You need help? I'll help you. I got dump trucks. I got excavators. I got whatever we need. Let's either return the shopping carts to Safeway or charge them for them. Either one. All right. Thanks, guys. See you in 2 weeks.
Anyone else sign up, Donna?
We have one person on Zoom, and that's Colleen Carmichael.
Good evening, Mayor Inesco, Deputy Mayor Schmidt, and fellow council members. I'm Colleen Carmichael, Executive Director of Quixote Communities. In Washington, the Department of Commerce found that 45,900 units of affordable housing are needed to be built every year for the next 22 years to meet the demand. And the FCS group found that in Mason County, they were short 651 units for low-income renters. What are the current services we offer? Permanent supportive housing, 30 units, overnight emergency shelter beds, 35 units, 90-day emergency shelter beds, approximately 100 units, 2-year transitional housing, approximately 24 units. And as of 2023, we had 381 people out on the streets. Policing, reducing homelessness. Laws banning homelessness, making it a crime, only create increases in homelessness and health issues. I will bring again, Mason County point in time count in 2022 was 238. In 2023, it was 381. And I assure you it's going up in 24. So that is right there demonstrating with the policing activities, it has not reduced or discouraged homelessness. I've heard tonight about drug use. I want you to know that the national point in time count showed that there were 582,000 people in the United States that were homeless. There were also 48.7 million people aged 12 or older who had a substance use disorder, including 29.5 million who had an alcohol use disorder and 27.2 million who had a drug use disorder. So the National Institute of Drug Use is the one that is stating that, and that is a national issue, not a homeless issue. Harm reduction measures only encourage more use. That is another thing we have heard. There is no data to support that. A review actually of medical services from Massachusetts found that when given Narcan, 93.5% of people survived an overdose. There were also 106,000 drug-involved overdose deaths reported in the United States, again demonstrating that this is not a homeless issue, this is a national crisis. sweeping people, moving them out of sight, moving them off of Brewer Park property and other properties. In January of 2019, Tacoma had a pit count of 436. They did $3.9 million worth of sweeps. And in January of 2020, their homeless count was 544. If Mason and Shelton want to reduce homelessness, the only proven way by the data I have spoken about for 2 years now is to increase housing and fund services. Thank you.
Right. Council have any new items for discussion? Our next meeting is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, 6 p.m. For committee sessions, the 26th at 6 p.m. So this meeting is adjourned at 6:57 p.m.